All right, folks, what if there was a 5-step process to help you reach and accomplish your goals here in 2025 and beyond? That's exactly what Greg and I are going to talk about here today on the Rich Wine Podcast. We're super excited that you decided to join us today. But we've come up with a 5-step process that I've implemented into my life. I'm going to share a story of something I'm actually doing literally in real time, and it's working, which is super fun. But the conversation back and forth, Greg and I, this is going to be centered more towards the health goal or the health goals that we've got set for ourselves. Greg is by far one of the best people when it comes to accomplishing and achieving great things in terms for his health. And I'm trying to follow his lead. I'm trying to do some different things for myself, and I'm actually starting to see the needle move a little bit, which is super cool. Starting to build some momentum for myself, for my family, for the legacy. We talked about legacy here a lot on the podcast, and so that's kind of what I'm doing it for. So yeah, 5-step process that we're going to share with you here today. That's going to help you bridge that gap from where you are today to this dream destination, this desire that you're looking for in the future. Yeah, I'm super excited to share this with you here today. So welcome, and Greg, welcome, man. Let's have a chat. Let's share this 5-step process with everybody today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Obviously health. I love talking about health, and I was assuming we're going to talk about habits and goals and everything like that. So just kind of looping everything together and using you as the guinea pig or the example in real life here. I love it. So let's go.
Yeah, you do love that, don't you? You love it when it's my turn to start sharing some of my stories, right? Pick me apart. I love it. I
Yep.
love it. But you're right. Yeah, this is something that's literally happening in real time. So I've made a decision. By the time this episode will launch, we'll probably be mid-April, mid to late April when this launches. But we're actually recording this in March. So we're just in the beginning process, the first quarter of 2025. And I made the decision at the beginning of the year that I was going to get better with my health. I've gotten lazy over the last, say, 2-ish years. Uh, Back in 2017, I actually have gone through this before, which kind of helps, but I was doing really well for myself from a physical standpoint. I was talking to Greg before we hit record here today. I was mid 40s, I would say. I didn't do the math on exactly. I'm about ready to turn 51. So let's say I was about 45, but I'd gotten myself in pretty good shape. But since then, I've gotten lazy, and I've just kind of let some things slip. And so it's time to get back into control of that. And that's where this 5-step process we're going to share with you here today. And I'll share a little bit more of that story, that journey that I'm on right now as inspiration. The point is, you don't necessarily need to leave and do the things that I'm doing, but hopefully you can see some of my progress in real time, but then obviously implement some of these ideas into your life as well. So anyways, man, you want to jump into the first step of this 5-step process, or do you want me to share the first one?
Yeah, if you want to jump, you kind of came up with this one. So if you want to just kind of introduce it maybe, and then I'll just jump in with some questions and really dive into your story.
Cool. Well, let's there again. I like acronyms, right? So this one is going to be the acronym of WOOP, WOOP. And the W portion of this, which is the first step, and I told you there was 5 steps, so stay tuned. The last step is going to be super cool. But the first step is the W, is your wish. What do you truly want? And I've struggled with this a lot in my adult life, meaning I struggle with the idea and the question that I'm asking myself all the time. What do I really want? What do I wish to happen? And because of that, it's kept me in a small-minded, lack mindset in terms of financials, in terms of building businesses, even with my families and relationships. And then with the story I'm going to share today, even with my health. What do I truly want? And when I sat with that here at the beginning of the year 2025, as I've mentioned in the past, I've got a brand new grandson, Rowan. I think he's approximately 17 months old, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of this recording. And so I've got a new idea or new vision for where I want to go, who I want to become. I want to be the grandpa that's running around. I want to be the grandpa that's chasing him and rolling around with him and just playing, having a great time, having him be a boy and just having fun. And I don't want to be that one that's sitting on the sidelines. I want to be able to pick him up and throw him in the air and catch him and spin him. And so those are the visions that I've got in my head, which is driving me to have this. What do I want? Well, I want to have that physical ability to do those things. And with that comes that desire that, okay, what do I need to do next? And we'll get into the next few steps here. But so that's the beginning part. What do you truly want? What do you wish? But it's got to be a burning desire. It can't just be a mere hope. It's like, man, I'd really like to have XYZ, or man, I'd really like to achieve XYZ. No, it's got to be something bigger than yourself. As I mentioned for myself with my grandson, it's like, this is bigger than me. I'm visioning him 5, 10, 15 years old. Now, who knows what he'll be doing at 15 years old? And I'm not going to be chasing him around. But at the same time, the point being is I definitely want to be able to physically keep up with him for a long period of time. And to do that, I've got to take care of myself. Thoughts on that so far, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you said you made the decision in the beginning of 2025, so there was no, question about it. And obviously, you're figuring out what you want, your wish. And a lot of people, including myself, sometimes it's, well, what do you want? It's like, well, I don't really know, or I kind of have an idea, but it sounds like you're very clear about what you want and why you want it, which is great because I think a lot of people, when they're creating goals or even just asking the question, well, what do you want? And they don't really know. If you ask them, well, what don't you want? Well, I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want to be able to not chase my grandson around. They can list off things like crazy. But when you ask them what you do want, it's a lot harder. So it sounds like you really have that clarity and that clear vision, and you have committed to that decision that you made in the beginning of 2025. And we'll get into kind of where you're at with your results. But I know you're moving the needle, so your commitment is on point right now. So congratulations, man.
Appreciate that. So let's go into, and this, I'm kind of in real time here. I'm thinking as you're speaking, you've mentioned in the past a good way to dial in that wish or that dream, that vision, with asking why questions to yourself. Do you remember us having that discussion in the past?
Of
Maybe take
course.
the listeners through that one more time, because I think that that's super powerful. Because if you don't, this part at the beginning is, in my opinion, the most important part to the 5 steps I'm going to share with you here today. That if you don't have this figured out, and it's got to be a burning desire. I mean, you've got to want this more than anything. Because if you don't, you're going to easily waffle and fall back and not complete, and not do the steps that we're going to share here with you here in just a few moments. But maybe take everybody through that exercise of determining what that wish is and what they truly want through that exercise I know you've shared in the past.
Yeah. So real quickly, I've heard it described as the 5 times why or the 7 times why. However many times you need to ask yourself that question, but the first question is more surface level. Is what do you want? Okay, I want to lose X amount of pounds. Great. Why do you want to do that? Well, I want to look good in a bathing suit, or vanity reasons or health reasons or whatever. Great. Why do you want to do that? Why is that important to you? You keep asking yourself, why do you want to do that? Why is that important to you? And you kind of drill down to, you want to look good in a bathing suit, you want to be healthy. Then all of a sudden you're, well, I'm 50 years old. I want to be able to walk when I'm 75 or 80 years old. Then it gets into, well, why do you want to walk when you're 75 or 80 years old? Because I want to live a lifestyle when I'm 75 or 80 where I'm not relying on other people to take care of me, push me around. I want to still be able to play pickleball when I'm 75, whatever the reason is, right? Um,
Yeah, exactly.
so you really dive into, for me, it always comes down to, especially with health, it comes down to exactly what I'm talking about. It's health and longevity. And I want to be able to take care of myself when I'm 80 years old and not worry about, well, I'm 80. I don't know if I can travel. I don't know if I can get up that flight of stairs. I really don't want to have those thoughts in my head. And at 45 years old right now, almost 45, these are the things that I know I need to do now to prevent, from having those thoughts in the future, those negative thoughts, and really just taking care of myself in the future. But yeah, asking yourself those why questions, and really being honest with yourself, that'll really like drive yourself down to the core of, why you're doing it. And it's really not for vanity reasons or, that kind of thing. It really makes you really look inside yourself and find that answer for yourself.
Love it. So I shared that here just with you, with folks, with my why. So the why for me to get in better shape, to get more healthy, is strictly for my family. It's for my grandson Rowan. Obviously, I want to be able to do the other things that Greg mentioned as well. I see folks. It's unfortunate that I see folks that are not much older than me, and they struggle, as you mentioned, to get upstairs or to just walk in general. And it's unfortunate. So I know, in my mind, I know that if I don't start doing some of the things today, like right now, we've talked about that in the last few episodes as well, is that we can't worry and focus on the future, and we can't worry and focus on the past. Now we can envision a better future, but we can't worry about the future. And so part of that today is, so what can you do right now? And going through that why, asking yourself those 5, 6, 7 steps of why, I think will help you in the process of determining what this truly is that you want. Because I promise you, if you don't have a burning desire for what it is that you truly desire, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. I have many times. So this, we're talking about health today, but this can be related to financials, whether you desire to gain a certain amount of capital, whether you're trying to build a business or whether you're trying to grow your net worth, whatever it is. If your why is not strong enough, you're not going to push through the challenges that are going to come from a financial statement, and then also from a health standpoint as well. So yeah, focus on that. What do you truly want, and dive deep into these why questions, and really figure out what it is that you truly want. So moving on then to the next step is the O in WOOP, is the outcome. So we're going to start focusing on the outcome. As I mentioned, you can envision a brighter future. I want you to start thinking about and visualizing what life will be like in the future. So taking it back to myself. So I am already seeing myself playing with Rowan, rolling around with him. So I'm watching him when he's with us here, as far as during the day. When everybody's at work, I'm here watching Rowan, which is a lot of fun. One thing I love to do is I sit on the ground. I just sit on the floor, and he is just running around all over the place. And when he does that, a lot of times he'll jump on me, he'll climb on me. It's like I'm his little jungle gym, which is fantastic. The point that I want to make with that, though, is I see that day to day. So then I extrapolate that even further out with him getting older and him getting bigger. We've got a playground that's actually right across the street from where we live. I know for a fact this coming summer, he's going to be wanting to go over there and swing and going up and down the slide and do it. Grandpa, I want to do this. Grandpa, I want to do that. And so I'm envisioning that future. I know what's coming. I know it's going to be coming very soon. And so with that said, I'm placing myself in that picture. So you need see yourself in the moment. So see yourself going through the motions, picking him up, throwing him around. If you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, look at it and feel what it's going to be like, right? When you receive and get the expectation that you're looking for, whether you're building a business, whether it's a financial situation that you're trying to work through, all those different kind of things. You need to focus on the outcome that you're looking for. And to do that through a visualization process. We've talked about our I am statements here lately here on the podcast. You can focus on those as well. Different things such as that is what I'm going to do. So here's another thing that I've talked about all the time. This could be part of your journaling process. If you've taken me up on your journaling, this could be something you could journal about daily or at least often, about this person that you're becoming, because you're going to slowly become this individual that you visualize here in today moving forward. So any more thoughts on the second step of the outcome?
Yeah, I love the fact, the visualization part of it. That was something that for me, it took me a long time to really get behind. For some reason, it just didn't stick with me. But, with just listening to other podcasts and realizing that athletes do visualization, a lot of business owners, successful business owners, all these successful people are doing this one thing, and they do a lot more than just this one thing. But if they're doing visualization, then why wouldn't it work for me? Right.
Right.
On my level with finances or health or relationships, as they say, success leaves clues. And if you're, taking Michael Jordan as an example, if he's visualizing himself hitting that game winning shot, does he, he has more confidence taking that shot. Does he make that shot every time? No, of course not. But he has the confidence to take that shot because he's visualized it in his own mind. Same thing for us, right? Where we're not playing in the NBA championship here, but we're also, we're working on our finances, setting up businesses, health goals, whatever it is. So if it can work for them, it's definitely going to work for us. And, I'm a big fan of success leaves clues, and you might as well copy the people who are successful in this world and just apply it to, your life and your circumstances as you wish.
So we're not, like you said, we're not winning world championships in the sports arena, but we're definitely in the process of trying to achieve greater things for ourselves in our own life. So that comparison can help. Just make sure you don't fall into the trap of thinking, "Oh my gosh, if I'm not doing X, Y, Z, then I'm failing," because that's not true at all. You just need to run your race, what it
Mhm.
is that you're trying to achieve. Focus on what you're trying to accomplish, and then really go to work and just allow it to really come to you. So part of that visualization process, one thing that I've learned and worked for myself, right? You need to feel it. You need to feel in the present moment what it's going to be like, what it's going to feel like in the future. So, for example, with this weight goal or weight loss and fitness goal that I've got for myself, as I mentioned earlier, 2017 ish, if I can remember right, I've done this before. I've gone through the process of taking myself from a lazy state of just not paying attention and eating the wrong things and drinking too much and not being, just not being good as far as for taking care of myself. So back then, I was taking a photo diary of myself. Back then, I was taking photos of myself every month. And so I've seen myself already do this before, going from this overweight person down to, as I mentioned, I was pretty ripped for mid 40s. I'm not going to say I was fitness model ripped, but at the same time, I wasn't bad. I wasn't bad. My point being is that so I can already visualize and see what that process is going to be and what that process is going to look like. So if you don't have that even for yourself, just get an idea of where you're trying to go with your process. That's the beauty of kind of almost with the technology we have these days. Vision boards are a good idea. I've done vision boards in the past. Just get the feeling, get the understanding, get the visuals, get the visualization, but then also get the feeling of what it's going to be like when you achieve and get to that final destination. That's been probably a big part of that for myself as well. So let's move into probably the next two steps. The next one for sure is going to be the obstacle. So the second O in WOOP is going to be the obstacle. And you're going to run into challenges, period.
Mhm.
That's the way it is. Success isn't a straight line. Is it, Greg? I don't think it is it?
Never is. No.
It never is. No matter what, it's not a straight line. So with that said, when you run up against these obstacles, because I run up into them every day. So just going back to this health goal that I've got for myself. So I'm trying to eat better, but that doesn't mean I'm going to eat at home 24/7, 365. I'm going to be going out, dinners, whatever, with my family, with my wife. And so what do? You still have cravings for different things. How do you go up against those challenges? What are you going to do when you run up against those obstacles? So you just need to be thinking through that process and try to make sure you set yourself up for success, which we'll get into the next step here in just a few moments here. But what do you think about the obstacle? I know from your journey, Greg, I know you've gone from this excess heavier gentleman right down to where you are today. And I'm sure you're running up against obstacles daily, I would assume. Tell me more about those.
Yeah. Obstacles, like you said, everybody has them. No matter how strong-willed you are, there's just obstacles out there in life every day because we always have the choice to, make a healthy decision or make a unhealthy decision, and it's kind of a spectrum as well. But I think the obstacle, like you said, they're always going to be there. When you go out to dinner in a restaurant, there's plenty of obstacles. There's plenty of temptations. You can fall back into your old
They're always trying to
patterns.
get me to eat that bread and drink those pops.
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
Always.
it's it's just one of those things where we all have our
Or
things that kind
sodas.
of draw us in. So,
Yeah.
um, but I think yeah. So there's always going to be obstacles, temptations, and I think who we surround ourselves with, it will also definitely helps or can hurt us. But also having that discipline, and I know you always talk about my discipline and that kind of thing, and it's definitely not 100% for sure, but I'm realizing discipline is basically it's doing the hard things when you don't want to do them, but you should. You shouldn't eat that bread or have that soda or have both of them in the same meal, but you really want to, and it feels good. And for the
So
five
double
minutes,
serving, that's a bad idea. Double up everything. That's not bad, or
I
that's not
mean,
good.
it depends on what you want to do with your goal, right?
Depends on the goal, right?
Do you want to hit your goal or do you want to? And I've fallen into this, like in certain times in my life where I'll be more disciplined. Other times I'll be a little bit less disciplined, but consciously understanding that it's really doing the things that you don't want to do emotionally, but you should logically. And that's the difference between somebody who has the six pack abs at 40 or 50 years old or somebody who doesn't, right? And I don't have six pack abs right now, but it's something that I'm, working on, and I know discipline is the biggest thing that I really need to commit to a little bit stronger and a little bit more in my life. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about discipline? Because obviously you've turned that dial up pretty well right now on the discipline
Well,
level.
and you said it, and I've told you this in the past. You are probably one of the best I've seen at the discipline piece, especially when it comes to your fitness, right? And so you're an inspiration to me. I've told you in the past. I think when I start to get tempted, it's like, what would Greg do? I honestly have that thought in my mind. What would Greg do? And most of the time it's, yeah, I don't think I need that, or I don't think I want that right now. Right. So then it just allows you then to step away from whatever that temptation might be. But yeah, it requires discipline. I've always been really good at being able to turn things on and off virtually instantly. And I know I hear of folks that they struggle with that. They struggle with the temptations and that type of thing. And I've really never had that problem. I used to smoke and even chew tobacco back when I was in my 20s. I mean, it was just something coming out of high school and in college. It was just a bad habit that I was doing. And I was able to quit cold turkey. Now, it wasn't enjoyable. I mean, I was having the withdrawals and all the negativity that comes along with doing something like that for yourself. But I've always been able to make a decision and then just move into it. As I mentioned, even with my health, I'll get lazy again, which I don't want to, but I might even after this time as well. But I've always been able to flip quickly, which is part of that discipline piece. I'm able to make a decision and then stick to it, whether it's with accountability, whether it's personal accountability, but like it's also with you, Greg. It's like, okay, what would Greg want me to do at this point? And then I just don't do it. So who out there, folks, for you could be that voice in your mind? It could be us, right? We're trying to encourage you to have that discipline for yourself. It's like, what would Greg and Randy want me to do at this moment? And just sit with that for just, it doesn't take an hour. Just sit with it for a couple of minutes and
Mhm.
just think about that. Allow yourself to then go through that process and then just make a different decision for in that moment. Now, like you said, we're not going to be perfect, and I'm not perfect. I crave things. I had a roll the other day, and it was like I haven't had. So I'm moving towards a little bit more of a keto diet. Is what I'm doing. So I'm trying to get away from the carbs, the sugary things, those type of things. And so, I want those just as much as anybody. So it's just a matter of just having the discipline. What would Greg want me to do at this point? And then just kind of moving, making a different decision, right? Responding different versus reacting in the moment. And
Mhm.
we've had discussions about that in the past for sure as well. Any more thoughts on that one?
Well, I like the mindset of change, right? Because I know I've had conversations with people, especially when I turned 40 and I had some health issues and everything. And I remember some of my friends, oh, that just happens when you're 40. 40's tough. Well, I was just like, no, that's not the attitude I want to adopt with this. It's just something that came on the radar. It's not because I turned a certain age. So I love the fact that you said, like you're 50 years old and you can still change. You can still make these changes. You are making these changes. So you're not giving yourself that excuse of, oh, well, I'm this amount, I'm this age. That's just the way it is. Or I'm just going to have a little bit of belly because I'm 50 or 60 or whatever. No, there's people that make changes all the time
I
in their
agree.
60s, 70s, 80s. So age is, yeah, throw that excuse out the window because that's not an excuse in my book anyway.
I agree. So, just for example, people that I look up to, I don't know who they are, but I see them. So, sports. I like watching sports. So, football is kind of my pastime. I give myself the opportunity to watch football whenever I can. So, just a couple of guys that I look up to that are my age, if not a little bit older, are Tom Brady and Troy Aikman.
Mm-hmm.
Those two gentlemen, so from a physical standpoint, I see them and it's like, wow, I want to do that. So I think Tom might be just a little bit younger than I am. He might be pushing 50. Aikman's probably low to mid 50s, I would guess, at this point in his life.
Mm-hmm.
My point being is you're right. It's a choice. It is the decision of to use that as an excuse that I can't because I'm a certain age or I'm a certain this or certain that. I don't accept that. Meaning, if I choose to do this, yes, it's going to take some time. And yes, I have to change some things about the way I'm doing and showing up every day, which I can do that because I've done it in the past. That kind of goes along with everything we've discussed up to this point. I just have then to put it
Mm-hmm.
into action consistently, not not constantly. Like I'm going to fall back every now and then, right? But consistently showing up with that discipline. Yeah, I love that piece. So yeah, just find somebody that is in your proximity. It could be somebody you know. As I mentioned, like I said, these guys don't know me. I don't know them, but I'm watching them all the time on TV. You just see them around because of the things that I follow. And it's like, yeah, I look up to that. I know that how much effort it takes to do and be like that. And so so then I ask myself, am I willing to do that? And the answer for me is yes. So let's go. Let's get it done. I love that. So yeah, that's fantastic. So let's move into the final, or not, no, this is the final. This is the fourth step.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth step, the P. So let's make a plan. You're going to run up into that obstacle. So let's make a plan. And the way I look at it, when I think about this for myself, it becomes an if-then statement. So if I run up against whatever obstacle, it can be the weather. So for example, for me with my health goals, right now we're still in winter time, right? It's still 30-ish degrees, sometimes colder. I woke up this morning, there's snow outside again. Darn it. I could bundle up and go for a walk outside, but walking is one thing I want to do. I'm not a big runner, so I definitely want to walk. That's my exercise that I try to get in. So my if then statement is, so if I wake up and it's snowing or if it's cold or whatever, then I'm going to do XYZ. So one of my Christmas presents I asked for was a treadmill. So I actually have a small little treadmill that I've got here. Actually, it's sitting right next to me, as a matter of fact. So that's my exercise. I just jump on the treadmill. Is it as enjoyable as getting outside and being in nature and all those kinds of things? No, but at least it checks off that box of getting my physical exercise in to achieve this goal. So as I mentioned, it starts to become this if-then statement. So if you run up against whatever obstacle, and this can be a financial obstacle, this can be a physical obstacle, it can be any obstacle, then I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Any thoughts on that, Greg?
Yeah, no, I love this part of it. And it makes me think of, and I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast or even with you and I, but a concept that I recently discovered. It's basically pride over happy, and I'll explain. So
Yeah, pride over happy. That's intriguing. Tell me more.
yeah, so one of the goals that I'm trying to make more consistent is getting out of bed every morning at the same time, because it's very easy for me to, you know, the alarm goes off at 6:15. I want to get out of the bed at 6:15, but the bed is so comfortable, and I'm just being lazy. And so the whole pride over happy is, I'm definitely going to be happier if I stayed in bed. It's comfortable. It's just easing into the day. But then looking back, when I reflect on my day, am I going to be proud of myself that I stayed in bed for an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Or am I going to be more proud of myself and say, hey, you know what? I told myself I was going to get up at 6:15, out of bed at 6:15, and I did it. So when I look back on that day and say, all right, great, I started my day off with, I basically promised myself to do something and I fulfilled that promise. Because it's really easy to kind of promise yourself something and then let yourself slide. But it's really hard to, at the same time, kind of do that same thing, because you're disappointing yourself. And if you can't keep a contract with yourself, then you know what I mean? Like, how does that reflect when you're, in other relationships or friendships, and you're holding accountability to them and they're holding accountability to you? But if you can't do what you want to do and you say what you want to do, anyway, that brings me back to, like, I'd rather be proud at the end of the day as opposed to happy for laying in bed an extra 20 minutes and then beating myself up for, oh, I didn't get out of bed at 6:15 like I promised myself I would. So anyway, that kind of ties into a little bit of the plan, but I love that pride over happy because it's working for me and it's really motivating me to really just jump out of bed at 6:15 and start my day.
I'm glad you brought that up. We might need to turn that into an episode on itself, right? The whole idea of keeping you, like even just mental contracts with yourself, right? Keeping your word to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So many times, honestly, for myself, and then I see it in others as well, will commit to things but won't stick to it. Pride over happy. I like that. Make a note. We're going to come back to that. That's a good one. I love that. But that also takes us right into the fifth step. Okay, the fifth step is you need to celebrate your wins. The
Mm-hmm.
fifth step at the end of all of this, big or small, doesn't matter. You need to celebrate your wins, even if it's just an internal celebration. You just need to get excited. Whether you can share it with somebody, that's fantastic as well. I'm going to celebrate a win right now. I was sharing with Greg right before we hit record today. But on this weight journey or this fitness journey for myself, I started it back at the beginning of the year. I weighed myself just before I hopped on here, and I'm down 10 pounds already. 10 pounds. I was at 220, or a 6 foot male. 220 was, yeah, it was bad. Meaning it wasn't what I wanted. There's no judgment. It wasn't what I wanted. And I'm down to 210 already relatively quickly. Now, has it been challenging? Have I gone through the obstacles that we've discussed today? Yes. Have I desired? So I love Dr. Pepper too. I've talked about I love bourbons and I love Dr. Peppers, and those are bad, meaning I can't and I don't want them at this point trying to reach this goal. And I've had to go through these obstacles many times. So then I set myself through these if then statements with trying to get better at accomplishing these goals themselves. So yeah, just want to celebrate that for myself. It's a huge thing, as I mentioned with Greg before we hit record here today. That a lot of times I can even see it when I'm looking at myself in the camera today. I get puffy in my face when I start to put on a little bit extra weight that I shouldn't, and I can already see that I'm already starting to slim out a little bit, which is super encouraging for me, and I need to celebrate that, and I'm going to. And I appreciate you being here with us today to celebrate that with me, if you've stuck with us here this far in the episode itself. So talk to me more about celebrations, man. What are your thoughts on this fifth step?
Yeah, you definitely need to celebrate your wins. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, you know, something grandiose or anything like that. It can just be, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to tell my wife or my husband, hey, this is what I'm doing. Cause I do that to my wife all the time, these small little goals. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to share it because it's important to me. And, I want to share it with, my wife. So,
Yeah, of course.
and sometimes it is a big, like, hey, let's go out to dinner. We just, close this big deal, or whatever it is, right? So it's up to you to decide how you want to celebrate, but don't skip that step of celebrating. Even if, like, Randy says, write it down in your journal. This way you can look back on it and say, hey, you know what? This was a great day. This is what happened. And this is what I did to celebrate it. And I just took 30 minutes and, did X, Y, and Z. But the one thing I was going to ask you with your, your weight loss and everything, are you, and this might be another topic for another podcast, but
See, we keep coming up with topics as we keep going along.
yeah, I love
What you
it.
got?
Uh, are you feeling, or like, yeah, are you feeling your identity change of like somebody who is healthy, like I am healthier, or I am thinking healthier thoughts, or like anything with identity change on your end?
So we've talked about this in the past. So my I am statements, I'm repeating to myself all the time. And one of them is I am healthy. I've also been saying that to myself, my body functions perfectly. All the organs, I mean, I'm just saying these things to myself, and it might sound a little weird even coming out of my mouth here today. But the point is that, yes, I'm focusing on health. I'm trying to feel myself as being that person I see in those photos back in 2017 as I was making that progress towards that goal towards the end there. So yes, I am definitely becoming that different person. The good news is I've done it in the past. The good news, I've got friends like you, Greg, to help me, whether you know it or not, in the back of my mind, try to get me to not do and say or be the things that I know that I need to do to become better when this journey of health and just wanted to be better. I just wanted, so the legacy piece, that's where it comes from within the podcast. Health, wealth, and legacy. That's what we try to talk about. And that legacy piece, I don't want to get to the end of my life uh, and just woulda, coulda, shouldas because I didn't do the things today to get myself ready and prepared. Right now, if there's an accident, if it's something it's out of my control, that's one thing. But if it is in my control, I want to do everything I possibly can today that I can make sure or try to ensure that I can get to that destination, this vision that I've got for myself moving forward for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that, especially about the identity. Because I know that shifted for me when I lost my weight. It took somebody to ask me that question and to really like accept the identity change. And yeah, I honestly I do the same thing with health and I am statements and my body and all that kind of stuff because yeah, I realized when I was losing my health, or when I had that a couple of incidents with my digestive system and stuff, I was like, yeah, you only have one of everything, like
Right.
one digestive system, one mind, one heart, all that stuff. And it all works together. But when one thing starts to slip, then it puts pressure on every other part of your body. Anyway, it just affects a lot of your life. And like you said, I'd rather take advantage of the things that I know are going to help me now and in the future with that compounding effect, as opposed to rolling the dice and just saying, "Oh yeah, I'm 40. I should have a little belly. It's not a big deal." No, that's not the way. That's not the way I want to attack it. So I love the fact that you're kind of on that same page of, yeah, just changing your identity and the I am statements, and it's working for you, right? So congrats.
Appreciate that, man. I really do. And you've been a big help. Just these conversations that we have week to week, day to day. We're in communication all the time. So that would be another encouragement, folks. Find somebody in your close proximity that you can find. It's got to be somebody you can trust. I trust Greg with this information. He's not going to go around telling everybody what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, but he's honest, and he's sincere. And that's what you need to try to find for yourself, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, somebody you can rely on to help you through this journey, through these obstacles that you're going to come up against as you go through this process of becoming this better version of yourself. So the WOOP concept, wanted to bring that to you today. It was WOOP is 4 steps, right? And I've added the 5th. But let's go over that one more time. Let's recap, and then we'll start to bring this one in for a close. So the first one is your wish, your desire. What do you truly want? Okay. Greg talked about going through the asking yourself why 5, 6, 7 times. Why do you truly want whatever it is you think that you want? So then we need to think about the outcome. So then we need to move into the outcome. You need to visualize. You need to think about what it is that you truly desire. I talked about with my health goal. The desire that I want is to be able to move around physically with my grandson, with my family. As more grandchildren show up, I want to definitely be that grandpa that's able to roll around, be with them and be active. And that's part of what I want to do. That's the outcome I want to desire. You're going to run up into obstacles. So as you run into obstacles, you need to think then through the plan of the if then statements. If I run into this obstacle, then I'm going to do XYZ in response to that obstacle. So that's part of the P for the WOOP. And then at the very end, you need to celebrate your wins. You need to celebrate everything that you get accomplished on your journey. If you go for a walk today, celebrate that. It doesn't necessarily have to be this outstanding, huge outcome that you're trying to get on a day-to-day basis. It's a very slow process. As I've mentioned for myself, I've gone through this before, and it's a many month, if not a yearly process to get myself from where I'm at to the vision that I have for myself. And it's going to be possibly that way for you as well. It's not that you can't make significant strides, because you can, but at the same time, don't beat yourself up over a long time frame trying to get somewhere so quickly that you don't enjoy the journey, because it's a lot of fun if you allow yourself to do that. So, Greg, man, this has been a lot of fun. Any more thoughts as we bring this one in here for a close? I think we're going to wrap this one up here today with the WOOP as far as accomplishing goals here in 2025.
Yeah, I think just to echo what you just said is, yeah, it's so cliche, but it is just one day at a time, because we only have the moment that we have right now, and making those decisions and just being disciplined. Again, going back to discipline, it's just something that most people really need to think about and commit to doing those things that you really don't want to do, but you know you need to do. For me, it was just like, yeah, just being an adult and having that adult decision. I'm not a child anymore, so I can't get away with just kind of doing what I want and letting the consequences occur. So just discipline and one day at a time. Those are the 2 things that I would kind of leave our listeners with right now.
Love it. Folks, truly appreciate you spending your time here with us. For you to take a few minutes out of your day to spend it here with Greg and I, it means so much to me, and I know it does to Greg as well. We're trying to come up and share different stories, different ideas, some things to help you in your life out there in the real world, and hopefully we've been able to do that successfully here today. So if you wouldn't mind, share this with your family and friends. You can head over to richmind.co and grab all of our free resources. You can also reach out to us at info@richmind.co. Reach out to Greg and I. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us some ideas and some different things. Maybe share some feedback. Let us know maybe some of your stories that you're going through in your day-to-day activities. We would love to hear from you, and we'll definitely encourage you the best we possibly can moving forward in 2025 here and beyond. So we appreciate your time and attention. Go out there, focus on being great. Have a fantastic day, and join us back on the next episode again very soon. Until then, bye now.